On the eve of the 13th anniversary of the September 11th attacks, President Obama laid out his plan to eliminate another terror group that's threatening American interests in the Middle East. The president authorized airstrikes in Syria, saying the U.S. will hunt down ISIS wherever they go, and stressed that while the fight will involve risks, it will not involve U.S. combat troops. Let's talk more about the strategy, what the president said last night, with Congressman Eric Swalwell. He's a Democrat from California. He's on the House Homeland Security Committee, and he recently visited the Middle East. Congressman, it's great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, Kate.
So what's your take on the strategy that you heard from President Obama last night?
I'm better informed now, having gone last week to the Middle East, and I met with Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel, the President of Egypt, and King Abdullah of Jordan. And with the President laying out to the American people what the threat is, and knowing that we can stitch together and lead a coalition of Arab nations who are most directly affected by this to ensure that we're protected at home, I feel much more comfortable going forward. I do believe, though, that Congress must authorize any future expansion of the operations in Iraq or Syria. I think it's required, and it also will have the benefit, I think, of strengthening the President's hand as we go forward.
Why don't you think that the President let's clarify this. Why don't you think the President needs authorization right now? Because it was 1 year ago to the day that the President was talking about needing authorization to to conduct airstrikes in Syria. Now he thinks he has authorization.
We're talking about expanding the map, and when you start to talk about Syria and wherever ISIL may be, I do believe that invokes Congress's constitutional authority. And I also think, as I said, we will be much stronger if Congress is able to buy in on this. And we learned in 2003, in the Russia judgment there, that there were not enough controls on what the President was doing, and I think we can put tighter controls on the President's actions, go after ISIL, and assure the American people that we are not going to repeat the same mistakes that were made 11 years ago.
So you think there should be a vote now, even though the President doesn't think he needs it?
I think we should have a vote now, and I think the President will get the authority from Congress. I think the American people understand that this could come to our homeland, that there are hundreds of foreign fighters, Americans, who are fighting shoulder to shoulder with ISIL, and they're only about an 8 to 10 airplane flight away from coming back to the United States. I met yesterday, and I sat in on the daily threat briefing with Administrator Pistol, and I know that the TSA is doing everything they can to track these foreign fighters. But it's very close to our shore, and we must really scrub ISIL over in the Middle East before they come here. And this, I think, can allow the President to do that in a much more effective and symbolic way.
Let's talk about your meetings overseas. Do you trust, in your meetings and what you heard in your travels, do you trust that the coalitions with regional partners, that they will stand up? Do you trust that the regional actors will pull their weight, if you will? Because do you think this strategy can succeed without them?
Our allies in the Middle East have no other choice but to stand up. While the threat to the United States is real, this is an existential threat, a threat to the very livelihood of countries like Jordan, of countries like Egypt, Iraq, and to the fighters in Syria. So they have no choice, and that's why I believe the U.S. can provide resources, intelligence, special operations assistance, and airstrikes. But these countries, they're going to have to be the ones that put men and women on the front lines and defend their very existence. Otherwise, ISIL will just run right over them and move closer to establishing their caliphate throughout the Middle East.
Congressman, the President did not talk about a timetable, if you will, last night. Did he define the end game well enough to you? Did he say enough to convince you that this will not suffer from mission creep, that this will not become another Iraq war?
I think that's why Congress has to act, and Congress has to authorize what the parameters are for the President. The President has laid out the strategy. He's the commander-in-chief and sets the policy, but I think Congress can really tighten up just what the President's authority is to make sure that we do not have that mission creep. And he can come back to the Congress as we show progress. And we shouldn't forget that there's already been progress since the President acted just a month ago with airstrikes. And so I think the President shouldn't be afraid to go to Congress, and Congress should exert its authority.
Make sure you're sending that message to your leaders, because right now it sure does not look like your leaders are ready to hold any votes ahead of this midterm election. That seems to be something they're very happy to run away from at this very moment. Congressman